Hello everybody, you have tuned in to Eric Jose on Making a Murderer on YouTube. I cover virtually any aspect of making a murderer. I go over the evidence, the documents, the photos. So if you like, stay tuned, and in the future I'll have many more videos besides the one you're about to see. Hello everybody, how you doing? Today was a pretty fun day. I mean, obviously I went to work, but I got to go in a little bit late today because I got to go and, Mr. Hoddinott was doing a kangaroo jump through LA. So, stopped by the airport, picked him up, and we went and had some breakfast, and it was a good time. I love hanging out with Mark. And so we went ahead and had some breakfast at IHOP, and then we went ahead and, because I brought my GoPro along, and we went ahead and we had a little bit of a, discussion about the case, mainly about the issue of the bones, and we talk about the CD, really the two main issues right now with Stephen's case that really show, dirty dealings by the state. And so we go talk about those things and all that, and so it's always fun. I always love hanging out with Mark, and as most of you may know, I'm also going to be going to, I'm planning to be going to Australia on March 18th. I'm going to be there for about a week. We're going to be going to see the Night Rider Drizzen Rudolph shows and stuff, and I'm going to get to hang out there and hopefully get to meet a lot of the Australian supporters, and hopefully, or a fair amount of them, hopefully, and it's hopefully going to be fun. I'm just waiting on that passport, of course. I'm anticipating its arrival maybe Monday. So anyway, today's Thursday, so would be a pleasant surprise if it showed up tomorrow, though. Tell you what, I did pay for expedited processing, so it'd be nice, but obviously if not, Monday would hopefully be the day. Anyways, so hopefully that's coming through, no problems, and and I look forward to going there. So it was really cool to be able to get to hang out with Mark this morning. So I'll go ahead and go to the conversation now. I do apologize, we were in a crowded restaurant, and there was a lot of background noise. I used my editing software to clean that up as best I could, but there's still a couple points where it gets a little bit raucous. I am sorry. I will probably in the future not do it inside the restaurant as I did here today, but live and learn. Things YouTubers don't know before they start filming. But anyway, because I'm relatively new to being a YouTuber and and recording kind of live on location, as it were. I didn't anticipate that, and I probably should have, maybe. So anyways, moving on. You can still hear it pretty well, and I was able to clean it up with my editing software pretty good, and you can really hear me and Mark talking. So here we go. Hope you guys enjoy it, and we'll see you again at the end. Okay, it's recording. So, hello, Mr. Hoddinott. Good to see you here.
Yeah, I thought I'd just drop by LA.
Yep, stopped off today in the morning, so I started a little late for work today, went over, picked them up, had a little breakfast here at IHOP.
Yeah, just flew in.
For those of you who thought I might be in Australia already, not quite. So, we came down here, had a little breakfast. We even had a little talk with the Havering Scotsman. He gave us a little call here and gave us some of his thoughts about some things.
He's never too far away, that guy, even when you want him to be. He's always close by.
And congratulations to Stacy Seabrook. Obviously, he got one of his songs was shared by Michael Griesbach, got some attention there. So we're happy for Stacy and his success. Thought me and Mark will sit here and talk a little bit about the case today before we have to head in back to the airport. Obviously, I don't think I've gotten to talk to you too much about it yet, but what are some of your thoughts about the bones going on, this whole deal going on right now with these bones and the state hiding things, and
the more that goes on, the worse it seems to get. I can't I can't foresee a credible defence to their breach of the statute for preserving biological material.
Right.
Let alone the mischievous communications with Kathleen Zellner about the bones existing in the first place. So I'll be fascinated just to find out how they'll try to approach answering that. Even in their objection to the matter being remanded back, they didn't even offer an answer to that behaviour. So now they're going to have to. So it'll be interesting.
How are they going to explain? Number one, they gave the bones back, and Fallon was there. He was part of the team of people giving those bones back. And for him to have been telling Zellner that those bones were there to be tested when they weren't, and then to be feigning ignorance now that he doesn't know if they're still there or not when he was the one there giving them away. I mean, there's so much about this that just shows shady dealings with the state here, or by the state here. I don't know how it could be ignored. Obviously, I know how Judge Suck could ignore it. Judge Suck at this could ignore it, but I think a normal judge would have to look at this and go, holy crap, what the hell is the state doing? What's going on here? What are they doing?
Yeah, well, I guess we all have our suspicions about individual behaviour, but irrespective of the personalities involved, the fact remains that the biological material, that is the bones, were handed back, contrary to statute.
And they are most likely contaminated now, so might not be of very much evidentiary value at this point.
Correct. And so, to me, it doesn't matter who was responsible for handing back the bones. The fact is that they were. But more to the point, I suppose, the fact that, as you say, with Tom Fallon, what was his game he was on about when telling Zellner, or at least putting her off or pushing back on her request to test the bones? If he knew that those bones had been given back, clearly he must have. Exactly. And as I keep saying, review is a very big part of the justice system. So if you're genuinely committed to upholding the system, you should not be resisting. You should be allowing these processes to unfold as intended.
Yeah. And what do you think about the fact that it's Norm Gahn who wrote the statute that is now biting them in the butt?
Norm Karma, I think his name is. Norm Karma Gahn. So I know.
It's amazing. I mean, you wonder what he was thinking when he was handing those bones back. Was he thinking about those things he wrote in the statute? Was he considering some of those things he wrote in the statute when they were going through all those bones to give them back? I mean, I just wonder about that. But I tell you what, I think it's hilarious that the statute he wrote is coming back to bite them in the ass.
Yeah, well, how just is that? I think that's wonderful. It's a good statute to have. The law is a good law for all the right reasons, and the fact that clearly the state has breached it, that'll be an interesting outcome all around.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, like I said, then there's the matter of the state hiding things. So they did not hand the final pages of CASO that would have told Stephen's lawyers, appellate lawyers at the time, what they were doing. They didn't hand those over. They didn't call. They didn't inform Stephen or his attorneys what they were doing. They didn't hand over the updated ledgers, which also showed what they were doing with the bones. They didn't do any of these things. They deliberately sat on that stuff because they were deathly afraid that Stephen's attorneys would find out about it and do exactly what Kathleen Zellner's doing now. And that's why. I mean, let's look at it, folks. The motivation for the state to hide this, what is it? Oh, they didn't want what's happening right now to happen.
Yes, it's pretty clear that the thing that they're trying to avoid is an evidentiary hearing or any hearing under oath. Of course, there'll be an absolute passing parade of well-known faces cross-examined or examined and cross-examined. That'll be the post-conviction hearing will effectively be a trial of integrity. And talk about hiding things, of course, there's the famous Fassbender CD in his music collection. If that isn't a blatant miscarriage of justice, I don't know what is.
Right.
When that CD especially was a clear and unambiguous statement about information on the Dassey family computer that would have been extremely relevant to Stephen's trial.
Absolutely. The CD, we all know, is also now going to be another issue, right? Okay, previously, Judge Suk might have thought she could deny that motion and that she would be okay because of the way that the law was being interpreted in Wisconsin at the time that she made that decision. But now that's changed. The Wisconsin Supreme Court recently changed the way that Brady is interpreted in Wisconsin. And now it doesn't rely on the due diligence of the defense anymore. It's not about the due diligence of the defense. It is about, did the state have it? Could they have turned it over? And did they do so in a timely manner? That is what Brady's about. The Brady is not about defense's due diligence. And the Wisconsin Supreme Court has turned that around and made turned Brady back to what Brady's supposed to be again. And so that is going to throw Judge Sucket's decision regarding the CD back into question. It's not that decision she made is not going to have the kind of solid validity that she thought it might have had at the time, because as I said, the interpretation of Brady has changed now. So that's going to be another issue. If Judge Suk does what we all think she's going to do here, and she denies the whole bone thing, just flatly just denies it and throws it out, right? And sends it back to the appellate court. Well, then the appellate court's going to be looking at what the games the state was playing with the bones and all the things they were doing there, and then all the games they were playing with the Fassbender CD and the way they held on to the 7 DVDs for 8 months and then handed it over 3 weeks before Denny's due, jamming the defense up. All of these things, all these tactics that the state is using, clearly being dishonest, are going to come back to bite them when this appeal moves forward, unless Judge Suck totally surprises the hell out of us and orders an evidentiary hearing on these bones. I'll be surprised, but maybe she'll surprise us.
One of the possibilities, it might be a bit remote, but if we think it through, it's not that far-fetched, and that is that the state will be very concerned about the number of players that are going to be called to the witness stand at an evidentiary hearing. And because the problem with that, it's going to reveal a lot more than the public already know. So if you're being a little bit cynical, and if at the circuit court level, at Judge Sukowicz level, she just calls Stephen's sentence into question and overturns it right there and then the need for the evidentiary hearing disappears. So the question may be, even though that wouldn't be what the state would want in terms of Stephen's exoneration, not so much exoneration but at least release, but it might save their backside in terms of having all these well-known faces in a court of law having to give evidence under oath. So it's a question, do you want to get caught out now at the soft end of the equation, or when it's going to get really hard and very public at the appellate end? So it's an interesting thing. I don't know one way or another what's going to happen in that sense, but the problem for them is not going away, that's for sure.
Yeah, not going away. Definitely not. So, well, it's been a pleasure talking with you today, Mark.
Thank you very much.
And, obviously everybody, Stacey Seabrook's going to be doing possibly a live thing this weekend, folks. So if you're going to go check that out, he said he might be doing half of his songs in a live show, which I believe he'll be streaming on YouTube. So if you guys want to check that out, make sure you go do so. Look for more from the Havering Scotsman. He might have a little special event coming up here soon. I'm working on him, trying to get him to organize. So hopefully you guys will be able to see that. It should be a bit of fun for you. And had fun hanging out with Mark Hoddinott today, and I hope you guys enjoyed it.
Take care.
All right. So, I love talking with Mark. Mark is just, he's really smart about the case. He knows the case well. He's awesome. Mark is awesome. He is one of my favorite people to talk to about the case and stuff. He has really, really just sober, just, matter of fact, common sense observations about the case and stuff that I just love. To get to talk about something him and I were talking about there, think about this, folks. eventually at some point, okay, either Judge Sook is going to give an evidentiary hearing, right? And at that point, Zellner will be able to get Fallon on the stand. And if Judge Sook denies this, then eventually it's going to go back to the appellate court. The appellate court is most likely going to rule in favor of Stephen on a couple things, namely the CD and the bones. And then it's going to get, and if the bones, the whole thing with the bones is successful, like we're pointing out, if a violation of due process triggers an automatic retrial. So whatever happens, eventually one day Zellner's going to get Thomas Fallon on the stand, and she's going to be questioning him. Oh, so why were you telling us after we filed our motion for post-conviction relief and we were negotiating on getting some more of the bones and stuff to test? You told us that you had those bones. So, but you were clearly one of the ones that was there and giving them away. So how is it you were telling us that you still had them when you obviously knew that you didn't? Because it was you and Gahn and was it Hawkins, Deputy Hawkins, that were there that day? It's that's going to be. I mean, how's he going to answer on the stand? I can't wait to see how that unfolds personally, because what is he going to say? What can he say? Right? I mean, this is just the more you think about it, once Zellner starts getting these bad actors on the stand, she's just gonna go at them like a bulldog, and she's just gonna go after them. And what are they gonna do to protect themselves? I mean, they've exposed themselves so much at this point. Maybe under the previous interpretation of Brady, they were safe, but under this current interpretation of Brady, I don't think they are. And so that's going to make the CD an issue. And then because they were not disclosing what they had done, they were not handing over the pages of queso that basically talk about them giving the bones back to the hall box. They don't hand over the pages of the ledger that show them giving those bones back. They don't hand that stuff over because they don't want Stephen's attorneys to find out about that, because if Stephen's attorneys do find out about that, they're going to do exactly what Zellner's doing now. Which brings me to my next point. For anybody out there, and I've seen it because I'm in a Facebook group that has innocent and guilty, it has both sides kind of in it that, talking. And I got to say, I keep seeing, it's funny. For me, over and over again, whenever something big happens in this case, you always see the people who believe that Stephen and Brendan are guilty cling to the same argument. Like they will adopt an argument and they will just cling to it, and it's just bizarre. Okay? So what I saw the other day, yesterday I believe it was somebody saying again that Zellner is just dragging this out and Zellner is delaying this appeal, and Zellner is the blah 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 blah. Okay, first off, Zellner's doing her job. Okay, she's exposing the state right now, doing some pretty shady crap. Okay, so she's doing her job. But if you want to go a step further, if it's Zellner that's delaying this appeal, are you saying that it was Zellner who was holding on to the CD for 12 years and then decided to give it to herself right after Judge Sukowicz, Judge Suck at this, denied the motion and then handed it to herself right then? Or after, basically once the appeals process started? You think that she held it in her own custody for 12 years and then handed it to herself after the motion had been denied in circuit court? Don't you think she would have given that to herself before so it could be part of the motion? Don't you think? Okay, so who's really delaying things here? By handing things over in the way that they're handing them over. Look at the way the state is conducting itself. It's not Zellner that's holding this up. It boggles my mind when I see people using that argument, because it's ridiculous. Zellner is not the one that's responsible for handing this evidence over in the way that they're doing it. And then Zellner's not the one that gave the bones back. And Zellner's not the one that held onto the pages and tried to hide what was done. That wasn't Zellner. So you can try to blame Zellner all you want, but it's not Zellner's fault. The state has themselves to blame for everything in this. Everything. Okay? They have themselves to blame. They brought this on themselves. They continue to bring it on themselves. Like I said, Tom Fallon didn't hand over that CD while the post-conviction motion was still in the circuit court. He waited until Zellner was appealing the decision in the circuit court to hand. That's when the state handed over the CD, right? So that it couldn't be added to the post-conviction motion, or so they thought. They may have thought that the Court of Appeals would never remand it, but they did. They did remand it because the Court of Appeals thought it was a concern, and so they remanded it. Okay? Now let's move on to the bones. Are you telling me Zellner's wasting time, that she could have started the wildfires in California earlier, and then therefore the scientist that was out there identifying, bones and doing DNA testing on bones that were found in the wildfires and being able to identify cremains and stuff and help families find their remains of their loved ones so that they could bury them and have, some sense of closure? Are you saying that like Zellner should have started those fires earlier herself? Because they happened at the end of November. That's when the wildfires were. And that's when the gentleman that she got to do this quick DNA testing on the bones, that's when he was he was in California using this method and identifying these bones and identifying people's loved ones. Okay? That was in the end of November. Her brief was due on December 18th. Okay? Or December 21st. Sorry, it was due on December 21st. But she filed her motion for the quick DNA testing because she had just found out that it was possible to test the bones now with a very reliable method that's accepted by the CIA even, and the FBI, I believe, or one or the other. But point is, it's been accepted by a government investigation agency and everything. So it's considered valid, and look, that was happening at the end of November. That's the way it is. That's just the way life happened. And so she files a motion to test those bones that she had been negotiating to test previously before Judge Suk just flatly denied the motion for post-conviction relief suddenly. She was negotiating with Fallon. And they were going to agree to do more testing and all that stuff. And then, Judge Suk made the decision. And then all of a sudden, Fallon and the state were retreating. They were backing up and, trail of, basically a dust trail as they were, retreating. So, the point in all of this is that the state is playing games. The state is playing games here. And the Court of Appeals has been remanding these things back to the circuit court and then allowing them to become part of the record because that's when the wildfires happened, is at the end of November. Zellner files her motion. Now, that motion gets the Court of Appeals, and the reason why she files it is number one, she's filing it right when she finds out she can do it. Right when she finds out there's a valid, credible method she can use, right then, boom, she says, okay, we want to do that now. Okay? And why does she do that, folks? Why? It's because if she doesn't say anything at the precise moment, at the current time, basically immediately, as soon as she figures out she can do it, if she doesn't say something right away and waits months, because she assumes that because the appeal is going on that she can't do it and she just waits, well, then they can bar her later because they can say, well, why didn't you bring this up when you found out about it? She did. She brought it up when she found out about it. And the Court of Appeals basically said, well, no, we're not going to remand this right now, but we're not going to allow you to do the testing right now or whatever, but you can do that later after this appeal. You can do that. That is what the Court of Appeals said. So now she has it basically a decision from the Court of Appeals saying that she can bring that later. But she brought it up in a timely manner. Okay? then now that would have been the end of it, folks. That would have been the end of it right there. And she would have had to wait till after the appeal to do the bone testing. But that wasn't the end of it, folks. That wasn't the end of it with those damn bones. Then we find out there's pages of queso that were held back from Stephen's appellate attorneys back in 2011, and pages of the evidence ledger that were held back that show that the state gave those bones back to the hall box. And they were hiding the fact that they had done that. And now Zellner's got her remand. You see what Mark was saying about how it keeps going on and it keeps getting worse and worse things, worse and worse things are coming out? That's what's happening. That's the truth. That's the reality of it. Seriously. So when I see people out there trying to say Zellner is wasting time and Zellner is delaying this, no, it's not Zellner. Zellner's not delaying anything. Zellner is just finding out about things as the state, she's just finding out about it. Well, this last thing she found out about because all of us sleuthers out here, we had every single page of queso, even the last pages of it, and we were able to go, wait, those have all been given back. And then she was able to file a new motion that Stephen Avery's, number one, that Wisconsin had violated statute and given the bones back, and number two, they had violated Stephen Avery's due process rights by holding back the pages and the reports and the ledgers that would have shown that they gave those bones back. By sitting on those and not handing them over, they potentially have violated Stephen Avery's due process rights. That's the boat they're sitting in. And they can't blame anybody but themselves. They can try to blame Zellner all day. Zellner didn't decide to give the bones back. Zellner didn't decide to hide the pages of queso and the pages of the ledger. Zellner didn't decide to hand over a CD to herself during the appeal and after her motion had been denied in the circuit court. She didn't choose that opportune moment to turn over a CD that was a potential Brady violation. These are the things that people have to consider. This is what's going on. This is the reality of it. So, yeah, the state is looking really bad. And it's going to be very interesting to try and hear how they're going to try to spin things and how they're going to try to explain this away in some way. It's going to be, it's going to be interesting, all I can say. So, that's about it for today, folks. If you haven't already, please hit subscribe, and we'll see you.